Let's hone in on those other groups. The disabled, for example. Assisted suicide is legal in 10 different jurisdictions in the United States. Washington, D.C., California, Colorado, Oregon, Vermont, New Mexico, Maine, New Jersey, Hawaii, and Washington. Those are not states that would generally endorse Donald Trump. To me, that looks like the elimination of the disabled, allowing people who are old or have a disease that is crippling and life-altering to be able to commit suicide, giving them the tools for that. I think you could call abortion the elimination of the disabled or the unabled. They're not able to defend themselves or speak for themselves at all. And you're just getting rid of what is considered inconvenient. That baby is inconvenient to the mom's life. So that sounds like elimination of the disabled or a minority that doesn't fit into a certain ideology. All right, so before we begin, I want to clear some things up.
Listen to me.
This channel and the things that we cover, the topics we cover, are not an endorsement of any candidate or party. The purpose of mixed messages is to point out deceptive ploys that the media uses to mislead you. Now, because the media is at least 75% left-leaning, see my other video for that. It's linked right here. It just happens that there are more examples coming from left-leaning outlets of misleading ploys, tricks, statements, etc. So inevitably, people will watch this and say that we are Trumpers. We aren't. We're journalists trying to equip our audience with truthful information. So now the elephant in the room is addressed.
Nice.
Maybe last week was the first time you've heard this comparison. Maybe you've heard it for the past 8 years. But there are comparisons flying around between Donald Trump and Hitler. This is timely because you can't compare someone to Hitler and then be surprised when someone tries to assassinate that Hitler figure. Believe it or not, there's actually a technical term for this. It's called Godwin's Law, which was created by an author named Mike Godwin in the 1990s. The idea is, as an online discussion, specifically online discussions, continue, the probability of a reference or a comparison to Hitler or Nazis increases, grows, is greater. Interestingly enough, Chris Godwin, is that his name? Chris Godwin? Isn't that a receiver? Mike Godwin. Interestingly enough, Mike Godwin was asked about his law in regards to Trump, and he said it is actually valid to compare him to Hitler. So let's dive in and see, is it valid to compare to Adolf Hitler? Since 2016, Trump has been compared to Hitler, and it's not really a hot take. Every mainstream outlet is doubling down on this, even pulling out quotes that he admires Hitler in case you didn't believe them. Check out some of these headlines. Democrat Clyburn goes on bizarre rant comparing Trump to Hitler. Churches may be taken over. Clyburn and another House Democrat buddied up to compare Trump's rise to Hitler's. Beto O'Rourke, you may remember, says his Trump-Nazi comparison is the best analogy that you could come up with. People pulled out a clip of him at a rally saying that immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country and said, that sounds familiar, and it's because that's what Hitler would say about the Jews. Interestingly enough, in this video clip, Trump actually says illegal immigrants are poison to our country. Big difference.
Into our country, nobody's even looking at them. They just come in.
Immigrants, illegal immigrants, huge difference. A lot of the media doesn't want you to know that there's a big difference there, but I'd need another episode to give you the stats on illegal immigrants and crime. But just look up Lake and Riley, and that should give you a starting place. So let's back up a little bit. We're comparing Trump to this historical figure. You know Hitler. There's nothing good. Being compared to Hitler is never a good thing. You know that much. But let's look and see what their ideology actually was. Okay, so Hitler and the Nazis considered Jews to be an inferior race of people, and they set out to weaken other races and then take over the world. And Hitler believed the Jews specifically were destructive to the German Aryan race, is what he called it, and they didn't have a place in Nazi Germany. What you might not know is Hitler also wanted to rid Germany of disabled people, homosexuals, people known as the Roma and Sinti, and other minorities that didn't fit into his idea of the perfect Aryan race. In fact, the Nazis had a term for this. It was called asocial. So as a side note, let's hone in on those other groups. The disabled, for example. Assisted suicide is legal in 10 different jurisdictions in the United States. Washington, D.C., California, Colorado, Oregon, Vermont, New Mexico, Maine, New Jersey, Hawaii, and Washington. Those are not states that would generally endorse Donald Trump. To me, that looks like the elimination of the disabled, allowing people who are old or have a disease that is crippling and life-altering to be able to commit suicide, giving them the tools for that. I think you could call abortion the elimination of the disabled or the unabled. They're not able to defend themselves or speak for themselves at all. And you're just getting rid of what is considered inconvenient. That baby is inconvenient to the mom's life. So that sounds like elimination of the disabled or a minority that doesn't fit into a certain ideology. In fact, Trump isn't even trying to get rid of people who simply differ with him ideologically. He's not the one putting people on trial because they disagree with his ideologies. When he was in office, was he putting a political opponent in front of a jury to be indicted and convicted? No, he wasn't the one doing that. That's all coming from the left. Now, I'm not saying that the left is Nazi-like or Hitler-like. I'm just saying it's ironic that they're throwing these claims at Donald Trump when they actually have a lot more in common with those ideologies. Also, something you should probably know, that this isn't new. Trump isn't the first politician to be compared to Hitler. Republicans are compared to Hitler all the time. There was a teacher, a sixth grade teacher, who got in trouble for asking the students to create a Venn diagram of Hitler and George W. Bush and see how many things overlap.
I love Venn diagrams.
Here's a Charleston City paper headline: Liberals comparing Bush to Hitler. He's not the only one. In 2008, Madonna compared John McCain, of all people, to Hitler. And Mike Huckabee. How can you, with a name like Mike Huckabee, end up being Nazi-like? There's no way. Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan were likened to Nazis in 2012. Mitt Romney, of all people. Are you kidding me? The Los Angeles Times compared Dan Quayle to Hitler's propaganda minister in 1992. Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, and Barry Goldwater were all called Nazis. So it's not like the media continues to tell you we've never seen a threat to democracy like this. We've never seen a figure like this. We've never seen a fascist like this. They've been saying this for decades. All those people came in and out of office and were still okay. We just still don't have concentration camps and gas chambers. Now, why am I making a point to come on this channel and clear up this distinction? Well, I've said this before, I'll say it again. These news outlets want to generate panic, anxiety, and concern. It's not a byproduct. They're very intentionally doing this. After all, what's more concerning than a fascist leader? Last I checked, after all those Hitlers in office, we still don't have gas chambers. We still are not in a World War III. But the people who are crying Nazi are actively celebrating the worst genocide in modern history. Abortion. So, I'm just advising you, don't buy into the clickbait. He's not a Hitler-like figure. We're not on the edge of fascism. Do your research. I guess you could consider this a fallacy. It's called false equivalence, where it's in the name, really. Equivalence is drawn between two subjects based on flawed or false reasoning. This isn't good, solid, sound reasoning. Hey, I'm Caleb Bailey. I'm a reporter with World Watch News, and we are a daily educational news program for students. Our team tackles current events and human interest stories all in one, while hopefully not leaving you stressed out. Along with these videos on YouTube, we have a full 10-minute show. And if you go to worldwatch.news/YouTube24 and use the code YouTube24, that's all caps YouTube24, you'll get the first month for free. So, if you like what we're doing here, try out our full news program. 10 minutes, 5 days a week. Just use the link in the code and we'll see you over there. Thanks for watching.